I woke up to a sharp pain in my head and the feeling of cold, damp air against my skin. I was no longer in room 45. The room was gone. The fancy hotel suite was gone. I was underground. I tried to move, but my hands were tied behind me, my legs bound together. The scent of something rotten filled my nose, making me gag. The walls were stone, old and damp, and faint candlelight flickered from a torch nailed to the wall. Footsteps. I stiffened, my breath catching in my throat. Richard appeared from the shadows, his expensive suit now replaced with a simple black robe. Behind him, a massive symbol was drawn on the wall in blood. "You shouldn't have fought back, Vanessa," he said, his voice airy calm. "Now it has to be done the hard way." My stomach twisted. It? I looked around frantically. I wasn't alone. Two other girls were tied up beside me, unconscious. Their clothes were ripped, their faces bruised. I swallowed my fear. I had to get out. Richard stepped closer, holding a small dagger. "Your blood will make us powerful," he whispered. The other men in black robes began chanting in a language I didn't understand. I had seconds to act. I shifted my wrists slightly. The bracelet he had given me earlier, the expensive one, had a tiny safety pin inside. I had tucked it in there in case. Silently, I twisted my fingers, pulling it out. My heart pounded as I walked on the ropes behind my back. Richard raised the dagger. I had to act fast. With all my strength, I kicked my legs out, hitting Richard in the stomach. He stumbled back, cursing. The other men rushed towards me, but I was already free. I grabbed the closest object, a wooden torch, and swung it at the first man, the fire catching on his robe. He screamed, flames spreading. Richard lunged at me. I dodged, grabbing the dagger from his hand and slashing at his arm. He roared in pain. The other girls were waking up, their eyes wide with terror. "Get up!" I shouted, cutting their robes. "We have to run." Smoke filled the underground chambers as the fire spread. The walls were old, and the structure unstable. The ceiling began to crack. One of the girls had grabbed my hand. "This way!" she screamed. We ran towards a narrow passage, dodging falling debris as the ritual chambers collapsed behind us. We reached a spiral staircase and climbed, busting through a reading door, right into the Grand Royal Hotel lobby. But it was different. The once bright chandeliers flickered. The walls were cracked, old, as if the hotel had been abandoned for years. The receptionist's desk was covered in dust. My heart pounded. What the hell? Then, Richard's scream echoed from below. I turned just in time to see him, charging up the stairs, his face twisted in rage. "Go!" I shouted at the girls. We ran towards the exit. Richard was fast. Too fast. I could feel him closing in behind me. Then, out of nowhere, a security guard stepped into the hallway. He held up a shotgun. "Stay down!" he yelled. I dropped to the floor just as the gun fired. A deafening bang echoed through the hotel. When I looked up, Richard was on the ground, bleeding. His body twitched, and then he was still. The silence was overwhelming. I grasped for her, my whole body shaking. The security guard stepped forward, his face grim. "We've been looking for these men for years," he said. "You just brought down one of the Lagos' most dangerous ritual gangs." Police sirens wailed outside as officers stormed the Grand Royal Hotel, arresting the remaining cult members. I was in shock, my entire body trembling, as a female officer wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. Ada and the other girl, bless and clung to each other, sobbing uncontrollably. An officer, Inspector Adeboye, approached me. "Miss, can you tell us what happened?" I took a shaky breath. "Richard, he tried to kill us. He and his men were going to use us for rituals. Inspector Adeboye exchanged a glance with his colleagues. We've been investigating this hotel for months. We suspected it was being used as a front for criminal activities, but we had no proof. Thanks to you, we now have enough evidence to shut them down for good. I let out a breath I had realized I was holding. I was safe. I was alive. At the police station, we each gave our statements, recounting everything that had happened. The officers were stunned. Richard Adebisi, Inspector Adeboye muttered, flipping through a file. His real name is Emmanuel Adebisi. He comes from a wealthy family but disappeared years ago. We believe he started his ritual cult to maintain his wealth. I shuddered. So he had done this before, many times. The thought made my stomach turn. After hours of questioning, the police arranged for us to go home. I stepped outside and took a deep breath of fresh air. The nightmare was finally over. Ada hugged me. Vanessa, thank you. If you hadn't fought back, we wouldn't be here. I hugged her back, tears burning my eyes. We survived. That's all that matters. As I rode home in a cab, I stared out of the windows, lost in thought. I had learned a painful lesson. Not everything that glitters is gold. I had been blinded by Richard's wealth, ignoring the warning signs. If I had trusted my instincts, I would never have gone to room 45. That night, I deleted my dating apps. No more blind dates. No more trusting strangers too quickly. Valentine's Day will never be the same for me. But most importantly, I will never take my safety for granted again.